Welcome everyone. My name is Chris Hoffman. I'm a business data analyst with the NEMSIS TAC. Today is July 6th, 2021, and our training is training for vendor tools and resources. The presentation today is a conversation, so we invite you to ask questions. If you would like to unmute yourself to ask a question or type in the chat, we will be monitoring that for questions as well. Also want to let you know that the meeting is being recorded for review and will be posted on our website and on YouTube, so you can review it or share it at a later date. At this time, I would like to turn over the presentation to our presenters, Atim Effiong, who is a business data analyst with the NEMSIS TAC, and to Kevin White, who is our business intelligence developer. I believe Atim is going to start us off.
Yes, thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for being here. I'll be starting the presentation just going over some of the vendor tools that are available to you, and then I'll hand the time over to Kevin, who will be going over the data submission dashboard. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And the first item that I want to show or just remind you, bring your attention to again, is the state support materials that are available on the NEMSIS website. So from the NEMSIS homepage, scrolling down to the map, you'll see all of the states and territories that are available. Depending on where your software is located and which states and agencies you support, you can click on any state and you'll be able to see what information they've recently updated. So for example, if we go to Nebraska, here you can see the information for the data manager, their contact information. But as you scroll down further, you'll see some of the standard implementation tools, so the state data set and the schematron files. And you can see here the history. Right now at the TAC, we're working with state data managers to provide a nice summary of the changes that are made each time the state data managers send updated materials to us. So here you can see in Nebraska that they made some changes to their state data set file, and they've listed out all of the particulars that have changed. So that's something that we're working with all of the data managers to have that information for each state that you go to, so that when you're looking to see if the state has made any updates to their information, you can quickly get a nice overview of whether the changes that were made impact you as a vendor or not. Additionally, we have the repositories that are all public and available to those you vendors and those working with NEMSIS. So here you can find all of the state specific repositories, and again, you'll be able to see the information in there for each state in terms of what items have changed most recently, and you can even go through and then you can use the options on the side if you want to create a diff report to kind of see what things changed, particularly in state data sets or schematron files. That can be helpful for you ahead of time if there's any changes that you'll need to make to help support the state or the agencies in the state that you support. Additionally, there's this NEMSIS public repository that has a lot of information in here about compliance, data dictionaries, schematrons, etc. And as we're moving over, starting to prepare to move to 3.5, this data dictionary actually provides some really good information, including a change log of the things that have changed from version 3.4 to version 3.5. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of the resources that we have on the NEMSIS website that can help vendors as you're working with states, working through the transition to 3.5, and any other information that might be helpful for you as you are working through and helping us with NEMSIS. So before I turn the time over to Kevin, are there any questions about these specific two tools, so the state resources and the repository? All right, well, thank you. And I will turn the time over to Kevin, who will give us an overview of the data submission dashboard.
Thank you, Atim. So I'm going to be showing, hopefully, there we go. Hopefully you can see my screen now. You'll be able to, we're just going to start here at the NEMSIS homepage. So as many of you know, we produce a large number of dashboards based off the national data that we collect. And for most of our dashboards are for the general public or for state data managers. But we do in fact have a dashboard for you, the software vendor. And in particular, we have a dashboard that is for the field level software vendor. So those of you that make a product that actually collects the EMS data and then submits it up to the state repository, this dashboard is particularly for you. And it's called the V3 Vendor Data Submission Dashboard. And for those of you who are state data managers, that name sounds eerily familiar. And it should, because of course we have a state version of this dashboard as well. In fact, it was the state version that actually gave birth to the vendor version. And so right now what I have on the screen is a special demo version of the state dashboard that I've created. And the reason it's a special demo version is because both of these dashboards, the state and the vendor, require authentication. There's a certain level of permission around what any authenticated user can see. Right now, I'm looking at a state dashboard that's at a national level. And so we'll be able to see everything, but I'm not going to filter down to a state. State data managers, you know that what you see is only records that were submitted up to your state repository when you get this information. For you field level software vendors, I'll explain kind of your permissions when we get to your point. But I thought it was important to actually, even though we're talking about a vendor dashboard, to start with the state dashboard, because as I said, this is the dashboard that gave birth to the vendor dashboard. And I thought it was important to make sure that you, the software vendors, understood what state data managers are able to see at a national level around submissions. So every Tuesday morning, state data managers get an email with this view that I'm showing you right now presented to them. It just gives them a real overview of how their submissions, how they did submission-wise over the prior 14 days. And this dashboard only covers a 14-day window at a time. From here, if they were to click into the dashboard, they would get more information, more levels of detail. State data managers, you have all of these views. You have a big summary of submission information. It just kind of looks overall. You have some more details on the submissions. You have some details on agencies, including agencies, records for agencies that got rejected because we didn't yet process a demographic file for an agency. This is the accepted PCR detail is the view that I wanted to really highlight when it comes to the state version, because it's this same view that we provide to software vendors. And of course, it's cranking through a lot of data, so it may take a few seconds to load. But what we consider an accepted PCR is a question that I get often. And an accepted PCR is one in which it has been submitted to us, validated, and then processed, and then lands in our data warehouse. It's stored with us. It's only when it lands in our data warehouse that we consider it to be an accepted PCR. So it's usually a trivial point, but for the purposes of this dashboard, it's actually an important point. And there's a lot of detail on this there's a lot of information on this accepted PCR detail. And we'll perhaps get into the nitty gritty of it if we like, but the most important thing to remember about accepted PCR detail, whether you're a vendor or a state, that what we're really showing here is the average number of schematron warnings segmented in different ways. So here it's, by unit notified date and time. Here it's by zip code. Down here it's by PCR element, EMS agency, and if those numbers look a little crazy, like those aren't agency numbers, that's by design on my part. It said this is a demo version. And so I don't want to display individual agencies to you. So I've taken a little effort here to obfuscate the actual agency numbers. But we've got schematron pattern, software package and version. So you, the software vendor, be aware that state data managers are able to view and segment schematron warnings at a national for their state by software package and version. And then down here we get detail on what individual schematron messages are getting tripped the most. If you want more detail on what all of this is, and we do have a user guide that's available to you off the website. Let me show you, in case you didn't miss it, from the NEMSIS homepage. You can just go to View, Reports, Software Vendor Reports, down at the bottom, and User Guide. And if you as a software vendor are curious about information about the state version of this dashboard, and even though you can't access the dashboard itself, if you go to View Reports, State Reports, version 3 dashboards, and then go to the state data submission dashboard, we have a user guide that actually goes through all the visualizations that are available to the state data manager, including definitions of what the inclusion criteria are, and how we're calculating individual measures. So if you're curious about whether or not there's something that even though you can't see it, a state data manager can, this is a great place to look. We also, in case you're curious, we also have a training video that we produced a while ago on the state version of the dashboard that we'll go through a little bit, I think, in a bit more detail on each individual view or tab in that dashboard itself. Now let's go over to the vendor data submission dashboard. And before we get into any sort of detail on this, first thing I want to do is give a shout out to AngelTrack. They were really helpful and allowed us to use a segment of their live information for this demo. So we really appreciate AngelTrack's participation and cooperation with us. It's always best to have actual real live data when we can get it. So of course, again, we've gone through and we've obfuscated some things just so that we're not revealing information that AngelTrack wasn't comfortable with us revealing. But this view, of course, is, as I said, it's the same view that state data managers get. The only difference for you as a software vendor being AngelTrack is you only get to see yourself. So we talked about security earlier. For state data managers, they only get to see information on records that were submitted to the NEMSIS TAC by their state. For software vendors, and again, this dashboard is only for vendors that create software that actually creates a PCR. So if you only offer a state level system, then there is no version of this dashboard for you. So for you, the field level software vendor, you only get to see information on records that were created by your software. And we know that because the software is identified in the PCR. It's e-record 01, 02, 03, I believe, showing my, it may surprise you, but not everyone at the NEMSIS TAC has the entire standard memorized. But I believe it's in e-record. And so we're able to match that on a record level. This record was generated by this piece of software, which is why, again, there's only like one piece of software, but everything else is the same. We get to see information on the messages that were produced by Schematron, and all the other visualizations are here. One thing I didn't show you on the state version that I want to show you now is that all of these visualizations are interactive. And what that means for you is if we click on ePatient 09, what that click does is it filters all the other visualizations to just the records where a warning was tripped on ePatient 09. So if we had multiple agencies displayed here and we wanted to see which agencies are having trouble with a particular element or a particular warning, and we're wondering maybe is that an issue, is that something, an opportunity to go out to that agency and provide some education, or maybe there's an indication there if we have multiple versions of our software deployed, maybe maybe it'll help us identify this version of software seems to be causing problems with ePatient 09 more than other versions of our software. Maybe we ought to go look and see if there's an issue there, or maybe encourage agencies to upgrade, to switch away from that version of our software. We can, of course, do that with, for example, we can do that same filtering with Schematron message as well, which I find is really, really great. There's eMessage 09. If we maybe do the next one and see if we can't get a different element to show up. eTimes 09, there we go. So really a lot of opportunity for you, the software vendor, particularly if you don't collect this information yourself, to find out how your software is performing in the field. And if one of your client agencies seems to be having more trouble than others, you can help identify that, or maybe one piece of your software might be tripping people up. Great opportunity that really we offer at the national level. So before I move on to this other view or set of visualizations, I know we said ask questions at any time, but I want to take a pause here and make sure that we actually don't have anyone who has a question at this time. So you can either unmute yourself or enter a question into the chat. Okay, let's go on to this other view of this information, and this is really interesting because this is a set of visualizations. There's just two of them here that are specific to you, the field level software vendor. I know we have some state data managers joining us today who may be like, we've never seen that before. And that's true. You've never seen this before. These are visualizations that we offer only to you, the field software vendor. And again, thank you so much to AngelTrack to allow us to share this information. Really outstanding. I know how difficult it can sometimes be, or nerve-wracking it can be to offer yourself up for comparison in front of your peers. But what this top visualization shows is average number of Schematron warnings per PCR per day, and how, in this case, AngelTrack ranks against other software vendors. And AngelTrack is doing an amazing job. They're at 0.1, which is just fantastic. And each of these little boxes here is actually a day. And again, this is a 14-day window. So you kind of get an idea. There's 14 boxes. There's 14 or so boxes here. Now, you might be wondering, of course, we've shown this to other vendors and they're like, well, who else is this? Of course, we can't share that information. I know we all want it, but we can't share it. But it gives you an idea at least of where you sit. And if your software is deployed in multiple states, you'll get an idea of where you sit in a particular state as well. And you, of course, if you have this, you'd be able to, if you have multiple versions of your software, you'd be able to segment by software. And of course, agencies as well. So you'd be able to do that and get a sense of how you're performing against your peers. And we've set a little performance target that we would at the NEMSIS TAC, we would like to see no more than 1 warning per PCR. I want to make sure that that's not any sort of that doesn't affect compliance. It doesn't affect, it's not an official scoring or ranking or true performance target in the sense that we're going to exclude you or do anything anyway. It's just, think of it more as an aspiration. Down at the bottom, our second and last visualization that we're going to show is just a trending of that warning rate over time during that window. And we've got 3 lines on here. The blue is just the raw warning rate per day. And Angel Track is, this is a great example where, the raw rate can be really jagged for a lot of reasons. Submissions just don't come in at the same rate every day. We tend to have more calls on the weekends than on the weekdays. And also it's dependent upon when that state level system, how it's configured to send records up to the NEMSIS TAC. So if there's some sort of hold or mechanism rule in place, or if there tends to be a burst of records that get submitted to the TAC over the weekend, then that's going to cause, some volatility in this raw rate, which is why we provide these other 2 lines. The red line is a 7-day moving average that just smooths out that volatility a little bit to get you a better idea of what's really going on. And then we have this dotted line, which is a best fit linear regression line. So for those of you who are like, what's a best fit linear regression line? It really just shows, it's another way of looking at the trending. And it's a straight line that is the best fit for all the other points on this jagged line that tries to get kind of the middle and looks at just the overall trending. And again, as we can see during this 14-day period, Angel Track is trending downward, which, if you just looked at the blue line, I don't know that you could really see that. It's more apparent with the 7-day moving average, but the linear trend line really shows that, hey, this is moving down. There may be some late breaking, bump here, but that overall rate is still on a downward slope, which is just really fantastic. Whoops. And it looks like I've been talking way too long because there's a bunch of questions in the chat. First, nemsis.org website is down. I hope not. Now, granted, I'm connected to my my VPN. So it looks like Monet, you've noticed that it's not down. Okay, so it looks like we're able to hit that. Good. All right. So other than people having trouble accessing the NEMSIS website, before I move on, I want to show you kind of one last thing, which is how to subscribe to this. Are there any questions about what I've shown in terms of the visualizations and their meaning? Okay, so one last thing that I want to demonstrate, and it's in the user guide, but it can still trip people up a little bit, is we do offer the ability for you, the software vendor, like a state data manager, to receive this dashboard, an image of this dashboard every week in your email. So if you've subscribed to that, in order to subscribe to that, you would log in, bring up the dashboard, and then let me show you that actually. Let me go out to the NEMSIS website. We'll go to View Reports, Software Vendor Reports. I'm actually going to do that on the demo because that might, I need to always be very careful about what I'm showing. So right here, there's going to be up here, there's going to be I can show you, there's going to be a subscription link up here. And unfortunately, I don't have it. So I apologize. I didn't test that. So let me go out to a public dashboard and I can show you there. It'll work the same for a public dashboard as it does for a view the vendor dashboard, and I'll bring that up. So EPR systems, yes, we'll provide the link to the dashboard off the NEMSIS website in the chat. Let's go to a public dashboard. Let's bring up this one. So you see here, there's a little subscribe button. If I myself click that, I get this dialogue that allows me to make some choices about how, format, image or PDF, or image and PDF if you can't decide. You want to include this view or the entire workbook. The difference there is if there are multiple tabs, like on that dashboard that I just showed, where there's accepted PCR detail and then there's that comparison and trend. If you want both of them, choose entire workbook. You can change the subject if you want, add a little message to yourself, and then you need to pick a schedule. All of our dashboards refresh once a week over the weekend. So if you want, you can choose to have the dashboard sent to you daily, but you're going to get 5 emails that look exactly the same every week. So maybe only choose the Tuesday 6 a.m. That's your best choice. If you only want to subscribe to a dashboard once a week and you only care about it when it's refresh new data, choose your Tuesday 6 a.m. And then I would just hit subscribe and I'm subscribed. Next Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, I apologize. The dashboard will appear in my email. Yolanda, I believe we will be posting a link to the recording. Chris, do you have information on that? Because that's outside of my area. How can people get to a recording of this training session after we're done?
No problem. There's 2 places. So if you go to our YouTube channel, the NEMSIS TAC on YouTube, it will be there. And if you go to the NEMSIS website under training, it will be there as well.
Where is the training?
Calls and trainings right there. And then it'll be under, I believe, state or public training.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Absolutely outstanding. That's all that I had, again, on this. Is anyone, again, I'll open it up one last time for any questions related to the dashboard. I'm not sure. I haven't been monitoring the chat. I'm not sure if I missed something in the chat. But again, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you have one about frankly, either the state version or the vendor version of the dashboard. I'm happy to answer questions on either.
Hey, Kevin. Hi, this is Adam. Hi, I was looking at the comparison and trend report, and all of ours were kind of versions of gray. They weren't blue like you have Angel Track, for example. Should our vendor show up in blue in comparison to other vendors there?
So Adam, if you would please tell me what software vendor you are.
EMS charts.
EMS charts. Okay. So because so first, to answer your question directly, yes, it should be there. Most likely, there's some block with security, either on your personal, on your identified account, okay, or on EMS charts information in general. First thing to do is one, if you would just send us an email. Sure. We have a contact form on our website. Support, of course. Well, you can send it right to here, nemsis@hsc.utah.edu, and it will get to us and we'll respond. There is a forgot password link as well, just in case maybe it's an issue of a forgot password, but though if you're able to see the gray, you're able to see the dashboard, then it's not a password reset issue. You've authenticated in and you've gotten to that point. So most likely it's something configuration wise with your account.
Okay.
But while I'm at it, and that's a great thing that I completely forgot to go over, which is for you, the software vendor who wants this dashboard and you've tried to log in and you can't, and maybe it's an issue of a password reset, but maybe you don't have an account. And we have a form right here. So view reports against software vendor reports. Right here at the top, we have our forgot password, but we also have a link to a form for you to fill out to request an account. And all they would make sure, obviously, that you please put in your organization, and so that we can know which compliant vendor you're attached to and make sure we set things up correctly. How are vendor dashboard credentials acquired? Yes, Steve. Hopefully that answers your question. And that's where we would go. Are there any other questions that people are interested in asking about anything that I've demonstrated today?
Yeah, I got one. I mean, this is a great dashboard, but with all things NEMSIS, it seems like there's also future planning. Do you have any thoughts or anything you can express on where you might be going with these dashboards, or are we pretty set on them?
I think that's an outstanding question. We're definitely always trying to think of new things. You know, what really the key thing for us in terms of vendors, in terms of what we can offer vendors in terms of data and analysis, of course, is that issue of that boundary of security that we have to be aware of, right? As I talked about before, I'm sure any software vendor, you would like to know not only how you rank, but how everyone else ranks. Of course, we can't really give that to you. I can't tell Angel Track, you know, I can only show Angel Track where they sit in the ranking, but I can't show them where Image Trend sits or Zoll sits versus Angel Track. And particularly for software vendors, that does place a really kind of limit on what we can do. And while we respect that limit, it makes it really, when we do that future planning, this is a great opportunity. This training is, frankly, we'd really like to know from you, the software vendor community, what information that we could provide to you. You know what we get, what we collect. You're all compliant, you're all familiar with the standard. That ranking is just one idea, but there's got to be others about how you would like to see yourself at a national level. And so, I would pitch that question back to you. What information would you like us to show you?
Fair question, but until I get my credentials, I got to get practice, and then I can provide ideas. Well,
we're open to anything. It's just a matter of whether or not we can do it. So use a software vendor, and that's just not to you, that's to everyone on the call today. And maybe state data managers, maybe there's something that you would really like software vendors to know. We would love to hear that. If you have an idea of something that you would like to see at a national level, that's relevant to your company and to your interests, we would love to hear about it, not only in this forum, but if you want to propose it in an email, please do so. Okay. Again, we're happy to entertain questions on that or ideas in any way. We definitely have gotten questions. We fielded market research requests and other things. And again, to the we fulfill those requests to the best of our ability, with those boundaries in terms of security in mind. So with that said, I want to thank you all for joining us. And again, thank you so much to AngelTrack for allowing us to demonstrate with your data. It's a fantastic opportunity. And I'll turn it back over to you, Chris. Hey, Chris, it looks like we have one late breaking question.
Oh, wonderful. Go ahead and take
from
it.
Zoll. So I'll read it out for everyone's benefit. I know there are reports you can gather for specific agencies, but sometimes I cannot find a specific agency in the list. What constitutes whether an agency shows up in the list, please? It's a great question. So for you, the software vendor, it again goes back to that security boundary. If you're only going to be able to see information about records, patient care reports that were generated by your software. So if the agency has not created and submitted up to the state, who then submitted the record up to us at the NEMSIS TAC, and then we accepted the record. And so that whole chain has to be completed. Then you will not be able to see information about that record. And again, even as it pertains to an agency, you're not going to, if an agency uses your software, that you're only going to be able to see information on the records that the agency generated with your software. There are some agencies that have multiple software vendors in their enterprise. And so you won't be able to see everything for that software vendor, for that agency, only the records that pertain to you. Probably if we submit that agency number on behalf of that agency. Okay, so before I get to that, Adam, I want to answer this follow-up. Yes, I totally understand. There are agencies that we have submitted for and are not in the list. So if that's your understanding, please send us a message. If you think that that an agency should be in the list and isn't showing up to you, we definitely want to know about it. So send us a message, and we'll get in contact with you, and we'll track down what's going on and figure out what's happening. It could be the case that maybe the demographic file for that agency hasn't been accepted for us yet. That's just one possibility. And Adam, I think you were perhaps answering that question. Oh yeah, okay, you're answering Wendy. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Yeah, Wendy, please send us a message, and we'd be happy to figure out what's going on, and so that you're better able to use that information. All right, sorry to steal your thunder, Chris. I really appreciate you hanging on for me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin and Atim. You can find this and all of our videos on our website at nemsis.org. If you look under calls and trainings, there's 3 sections in there that are state and public trainings, and there are the V3 calls that are available under that section of the website. You can also find all of those videos on the NEMSIS TAC video or the NEMSIS TAC channel on YouTube. If you want to be updated about events like today's, you can sign up for our Google group. If you go to nemsis.org, there's a big red button in the upper right-hand corner that says subscribe to Google group. That will get you an email every time that we make an announcement for one of these events or anything else pertinent to the NEMSIS TAC's activities that we feel needs to go out to that list. You can also go and be updated on our information on our social media sites on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Once again, everybody, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.